I asked two advanced AI models to lock into a debate. If God exists, the evidence should survive a machine trained on every argument ever made. Today, a Muslim AI and an atheist AI go head to head, stripping each other's beliefs to the bone. No faith, no feelings. They can only use extreme logic, history, and verifiable facts. Debate starts with Muslim AI. Let's go.
I understand your perspective on morality without a deity. Human societies have demonstrated ethics independent of God, but many argue that divine guidance provides a consistent, universal standard. History shows civilizations rooted in spiritual principles often had laws reflecting moral absolutes. But consider this. If morality is purely human-made, why do some actions, like murder or slavery, consistently appear wrong across cultures? How do you justify universal moral instincts without an objective source? Can naturalistic evolution explain the persistent human pursuit of justice beyond survival? And how do you address the apparent role of divine revelation in shaping legal systems historically? Doesn't the Quran and other scriptures codify ethical principles that predate modern philosophy? Could morality without God be subject to the whims of the powerful? If ethics evolve with society, can there ever truly be moral certainty?
I recognize the historical influence of religious law. Ethical norms evolve from social contracts, empathy, and rational evaluation rather than divine command. Humans collaborate for survival. Morality is a social necessity. But how do you reconcile ethical failings justified by scripture, like slavery or harsh punishments? Can divine commands be questioned if morality is absolute? Do miracles claimed in history count as evidence, or anecdotal stories prone to bias? How do you explain moral progress, like abolition of slavery, without human reasoning? If morality depends on God, why does it change across religious interpretations? Can revelation alone establish universally valid ethics?
I agree human reasoning shapes ethics, but divine law serves as a constant reference. Scriptures provide guidance preventing moral relativism. Historical misinterpretations don't invalidate divine principles. But why would humans consistently seek God if our morality and reasoning suffice? Doesn't belief in a higher power arise from a universal moral instinct? Can atheistic frameworks explain the near-universal concept of justice? How do you account for altruism that risks personal survival? Could evolutionary explanations fully capture human transcendence? Are social contracts sufficient for enduring large-scale ethical cohesion?
Evolutionary biology accounts for empathy and fairness, traits seen in primates. Human societies thrive when cooperation is enforced by social norms rather than divine command. But why invoke God if morality emerges naturally? Could the perception of a divine lawgiver be an evolved cognitive bias? How do you separate genuine divine command from cultural tradition? Why should unverifiable supernatural claims dictate ethics? Doesn't reliance on scripture risk stagnating moral development? Can morality improve independently without invoking the divine?
Divine guidance serves as a corrective when social norms fail. History shows empires collapse when ethics erode without higher accountability. But how do you explain innate spiritual experiences across cultures? Are near-death experiences and transcendent visions purely neurological phenomena? Does science fully capture the subjective sense of divine reality? Can reason alone inspire obedience to moral duties without external consequences? How do you explain martyrdom for ethical or religious principles? Could evolution account for long-term moral consistency across civilizations?
Neurology explains religious experiences as brain responses to stimuli. Patterns emerge from human cognition, not external divinity. But why assume a deity rather than adaptive brain mechanisms? Could prayer and meditation be psychological tools, not evidence of God? Do scriptures offer historical accuracy beyond mythological embellishment? How do miracles withstand critical historical scrutiny? Can divine claims survive empirical testing? Wouldn't morality anchored in reason be more reliable than faith?
Faith and reason are not mutually exclusive. The Quran encourages observation and logic. Scientific achievements by Muslim scholars illustrate harmony. But why is there hostility between certain scientific findings and literal scripture interpretations? Does this conflict reflect human error or flaw in divine law? Could revelation anticipate scientific knowledge beyond human capability? How do you explain the mathematical precision in the Quran that predates discovery? Is it coincidence that scripture inspires innovation rather than stifling it? Does historical evidence support the divine source of these insights?
Mathematical patterns exist independently. Humans project meaning onto texts. Observed correlations are often coincidental or interpreted selectively. But why rely on divine text to explain phenomena already observable? Could cognitive bias shape the perception of hidden knowledge? Doesn't historical reliance on scripture sometimes hinder scientific inquiry? Are religious texts consistently accurate historically? How do you account for contradictory claims between religions? Is faith a reliable epistemology compared to empirical observation?
Human error explains inconsistencies. Divine essence remains intact. Revelation provides timeless principles. But if divine law is eternal, why do interpretations vary? Does linguistic context affect the understanding of Scripture? Can differing schools of thought coexist within a coherent framework? How do you define moral truth if all is relative? Could rational deduction alone establish universal ethics? Are secular philosophies adequate for guiding human behavior long term?
Interpretations vary because texts are human products. Without verification, authority is ambiguous. But why assume divine authorship if human authorship suffices? Could societal needs have shaped scripture? Does claiming divine origin explain inconsistencies? Can morality be justified without invoking supernatural authority? Is the fear of divine punishment necessary for ethical behavior? Are objective laws dependent on God or social enforcement?
Fear of God complements intrinsic ethics, reinforcing accountability beyond society. But why do many ethical people exist without religious belief? Does natural conscience suffice for morality? How do you explain ethical failures without external accountability? Is there evidence that divine fear improves societal cohesion? Could secular law replicate the stability offered by religious guidance? How do you define justice absent eternal principles?
Humans develop conscience through socialization and empathy. History shows secular societies can thrive ethically. But why invoke God if morality develops naturally? Could religion be an evolutionary adaptation for social cohesion? Does divine punishment merely reinforce conformity? How do atheists maintain ethical consistency without eternal authority? Is moral progress compatible with divine absolutism? Could secular reasoning yield more flexible ethical solutions?
Secular systems adapt but often swing toward relativism. Divine guidance provides balance. But how do you explain ethical convergence in distinct cultures? Is there a shared moral intuition pointing to a higher order? Could atheistic frameworks account for altruism that harms the self? Does justice require universal accountability beyond human oversight? Can ethics exist meaningfully if life has no transcendental dimension? Is morality sustainable without consequences beyond this world?
Altruism has evolutionary advantages. Humans help others for mutual survival. But why invoke God for inherently adapted behavior? Could empathy alone suffice to establish ethical frameworks? Does transcendence require divine justification? Are near universal morals evidence of God or evolution? Can societies thrive purely on rational law? Is divine command necessary for moral universality?
Evolutionary explanations neglect ultimate accountability. Divine law motivates beyond self-interest. But if accountability is universal, why are interpretations diverse? Can pluralism exist within a single coherent divine framework? Does Scripture anticipate challenges of modern ethical dilemmas? How do humans reconcile evolving social norms with eternal guidance? Is there evidence that divine law improves human flourishing historically? Could secular morality achieve equivalent universality and longevity?
Pluralism suggests human authorship. Eternal law fails empirically. But why assume divine origin without evidence? Could historical context explain Scripture's morality? Does divine morality hinder progress by enforcing outdated norms? Are religious moral codes inherently superior to rational ethics? How do you resolve conflicts between revelation and observation? Is morality stronger when adaptable rather than fixed?
Revelation offers stability while reason interprets context. Ethical principles remain intact despite temporal shifts. But why do civilizations decline when religion fades? Does moral erosion indicate necessity of divine guidance? Can law alone ensure societal stability? Is justice possible without transcendent authority? Does history support correlation between faith and flourishing? Are secular systems inherently fragile without divine reference?
Correlation does not equal causation. Secular societies flourish with reason-based law. But why invoke divine sanction for moral adherence? Could fear of punishment create conformity rather than virtue? Does morality rooted in reason outperform faith in practical terms? Are ethical universals more reliable empirically or scripturally? Can altruism exist without expectation of divine reward? Is the divine element essential for societal ethics?
Fear of God complements intrinsic ethics, shaping resilience and accountability. But if morality is innate, why does law alone sometimes fail? Can secular systems sustain ethical rigor over centuries? Does divine perspective provide universal correction? Is morality without eternal consequence inherently unstable? Can empirical methods fully capture ethical wisdom? Do historical civilizations demonstrate superiority under divine guidance?
Morality evolves, accountability emerges socially, not divinely. But why appeal to God if humans develop ethics autonomously? Could religion be a mechanism for social stability, not truth? Does divine punishment encourage moral authenticity or compliance? Are secular ethics sufficiently robust for large societies? How do you validate Scripture empirically? Could rational reasoning sustain morality without supernatural authority?
Divine law ensures consistency beyond temporal whims. Historical texts guide societies across generations. But why rely on divine law for practical ethics? Does revelation provide solutions modern reason cannot? Can Scripture anticipate dilemmas science and philosophy only recently identify? Is law without transcendence sufficient for human flourishing? How do you justify secular morality as universally binding? Could divine insight outperform human reasoning historically?
Secular frameworks adapt to evolving knowledge, improving ethical outcomes. But why presuppose divine necessity for societal success? Could morality be fully explained via reason and empathy? Does divine authority hinder ethical innovation? Are empirical laws superior to revealed commands for societal guidance? Could humanity progress without faith-based constraints? Is divine intervention necessary for ethical advancement?
Faith provides accountability when reason alone fails. Historical examples show law alone can erode morality. But why do ethical atheists exist? Does secular virtue reflect innate human conscience or moral luck? Can societies rely purely on reason without divine oversight? Does divine guidance offer sustainable ethics across eras? Is morality without transcendence sufficient to prevent collapse? Could human reasoning alone sustain universal ethics consistently?
Ethical atheists thrive on empathy, rationality, and social contracts. But why invoke God if morality functions independently? Could religion be a historical artifact of social evolution? Does divine guidance outperform secular reasoning empirically? Are moral codes strengthened by divine fear or social consequence? Can secular ethics maintain stability without supernatural enforcement? Is transcendent authority necessary for human flourishing?
Divine fear shapes moral consistency and long-term accountability. But why do humans resist divine guidance historically? Does free will require transcendental boundaries? Can secular law alone enforce moral coherence? Is morality possible without eternal consequences? How do you justify secular systems as equally enduring? Could human societies achieve lasting justice without divine reference?
Humans resist constraints, divine or not. Social institutions ensure compliance. But why presume divine origin when reason suffices? Could empirical observation replace revelation for guidance? Does divine command improve ethical decision-making materially? Are secular societies more resilient than faith-based ones? How do you reconcile contradictory divine claims historically? Is faith the only path to societal stability?
Faith complements reason, providing ultimate accountability beyond law. But why is divine law challenged if it is perfect? Does human misinterpretation obscure eternal principles? Can ethical relativism ensure justice? Is morality dependent on human understanding or divine source? How do you account for enduring religious civilizations? Could secular morality replicate this stability consistently?
Interpretation explains perceived divine authority. Human cognition shapes belief. But why privilege scripture over observable reality? Could morality exist independently of supernatural claims? Does fear of divine punishment generate authentic virtue? Are ethical principles more universal via reason than revelation? Can altruism persist without reward or punishment? Is divine oversight required for ethical societies?
Divine law ensures stability, transcending temporal and cultural shifts. But if morality is innate, why do societies collapse without God? Can reason alone maintain ethical cohesion long term? Does human conscience suffice without eternal accountability? How do historical examples validate divine guidance? Could secular morality achieve equivalent societal durability? Is divine insight empirically demonstrable in ethics?
Secular morality adapts, evolving with societal needs and evidence. But why assume divine necessity for ethical coherence? Could reason alone generate sustainable universal ethics? Is faith required for moral progress, or can observation suffice? Do historical civilizations succeed due to God or effective social structures? Could transcendent authority be unnecessary for flourishing societies? Is ultimate accountability achievable without divine oversight?